of this very unique series called For Austin.
Since accepting Christ into my life, I have definitely felt that a weight has been lifted. I've trusted that all of the things that I've gone through are part of a plan.
I want to do everything possible to communicate to you you have value and worth.
I love you so much, and I'm so excited to have you as my best friend for all of eternity.
That's awesome, buddy. I'm so proud of you.
Sometimes you will never see the results of what you do proactively until you're in heaven.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, buried in the likeness of his death and raised to walk in the newness of life.
Inside Out, what's going on, guys? How are y'all? Hey, I am pumped to be here tonight and really excited. And I thought about it, I was like, I've probably never come up and said that I'm not excited to be here, but I genuinely mean it. I am excited tonight. I've been jumped in as a small group leader here at Inside Out a couple of months ago, which is a brand new role for me. And I've loved hanging out with junior dudes the last couple of months, and that's been awesome. But I'm also excited tonight because of the conversation that we're having. For me personally, I'm not very good at living in the moment and being in the now and being present. It's something that I'm working on, but I love to talk about what's coming and what's coming next and what the future has in store and what it holds. And so that's the conversation that we're going to get to have tonight, and one that I'm really, really pumped about. And I did just love and want to start with that video because for me personally, over the last year or so as a special events director, I've just got to see mainly you guys go and create so many of those moments that we just watched in that video. I don't know if you guys know this, but back at My Life last year, we served at about 15 to 20 different organizations throughout that weekend. Just to name a few, some of you guys went to Safe in Austin, which is an incredible organization that nurses abused animals back to health and then connects them with children that come from similarly abused backgrounds. And I just think that that's like such an incredible mission, and they went and served with them. Some of you guys went to the land and you went and cleared stuff at our future home where we're going to be building and breaking ground really, really soon. Some of you guys served at a recently widowed lady's house in our church and went and loved on her. Some of you guys went to senior care and Alzheimer's care centers. And it was just so much fun to watch you guys go, serve, change the world, and do incredible things. Then fast forward to Camp 75, you guys were a part of 2,800 people being a part and being served through Camp 75. And we did food drives and went to Mount Nebo and went to Boys and Girls Clubs. And most importantly, we communicated a message to our entire city that we are for them and that there's a God that is crazy about them, that loves them, and is for them. And then lastly, this summer, I was privileged to be a part of a group that went to the other side of the planet and went to Juja, Kenya. This is a little girl named Helen, and she was amazing. I'm going to tell more about her later, but I'll show a different picture of them. But she's incredible. But we got to go there with the exact same message over to Kenya and say, hey, we are for you. And it had so many different applications. That can mean helping them build and strategize and create sustainable places, taking food to widows, all those kinds of things. But it's all been around the same message that we want people to know that we are for them, and we want people to know that God is for them. And so tonight, what I want us to do is, as we think about what's next, is I want to answer a really simple question. And the question is this, is what is For Austin? And if it's your first time here with us or you haven't been around much and you haven't heard this before, I hope to give you just a really simple and clear picture of what For Austin is. And if you have been around the last year, you have been a part of some of these events, I hope to maybe add a layer, add some depth or handles or foundation for where we're headed and really what For Austin could be in the future. And so with all that said, very, very simply, the kind of simple definition, you're like, hey, what is it? The heart behind For Austin is this, is that we as people and as a church want to be known for what we are for. We as people and as a church want to be known for what we are for rather than what it is that we are against. It's kind of that simple. And we said, well, hey, what are we for? And we said, we are for the city of Austin. Just for a second, I want to talk about it. I'm passionate about the city of Austin. I just, 6 months ago, graduated from the University of Texas. And so, yeah. Hook 'em. Appreciate you, dude. And so that's crazy for me to say because that already feels so long ago. But this is a picture I took downtown. I just think it's so cool to think about all the things that we have in Austin, right? We have big technology. So this is Google right here. We have Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. They all have a presence in Austin. We have a great small business kind of entrepreneurship environment for that to grow and to thrive. We do have a terrible football team, but a top public university in Texas. We have government with the Capitol being in Austin, and we have an incredibly thriving social culture, right? And so the last 3 months, I've done a ton of traveling. It's been incredible. I've gone both in the U.S. and international, and I promise you, I've probably had 50 plus conversations, not exaggeration, with people telling them I'm from Austin. And not a single person has said a negative thing about Austin. Every single reaction is, man, I love that place. Man, I so want to go there. Or my so-and-so, my friend, my neighbor, my brother, they live there, whatever. And I can't wait to go and visit Austin. Everybody has said these positive things about Austin because we have an influential city that's influential here in the United States. And I would say that it's even influential beyond. But tonight, what I really want to do is go beyond just kind of the meta or the high level of what For Austin is. I want to bring it down personally for each and every single one of you and for me. And so to do that, I just want to ask you a very basic question that has some big implications. And the question is this. The question is, what matters to you? What matters to you? So if you and I were sitting down having a conversation about life, faith, world, social justice, injustice, and I said, what matters to you? How would you respond to that? Right? 6 months ago, I would have said that Texas football mattered to me. Today, it's pretty hard to say that because it's just tough to follow and to be a part of. I would have said that graduating mattered to me, and so I spent a lot of time trying to graduate. Back in high school, I would have said that winning a state championship mattered to me, and so I spent my time trying to go and to win a state championship. And what you realize is that as the answer to what matters to you evolves, so too does the way that we live our life and the way that we spend our time. You might say that school or graduation or GPA or college or sports are things that matter to you, but I would also say that there's probably a step further that, for lack of a better word, just the bigger things in life that matter to you, right? The social issues that move you or the social injustices that move you or the things that have to do with faith or God or religion that really gets you, the things that really have a lasting impact, maybe a lifetime impact, maybe a forever or an eternal impact. I think there's some of those that you would say, hey, these matter to me. To help you maybe uncover what those might be, I have just a few ideas. One of those is this. What are the questions you think about when you're alone, right? The big life questions that you think about when you're alone. I don't know if your think time is in the shower, or it's late at night, or it's when you're journaling, but what are those questions that you think about life when you're alone? Or how about this? What are the things that make you disproportionately angry? There's probably some movement, some cause, something that happens or exists in this world that it just frustrates you more than the others. There's so many movements, so many causes, so many things that we need to make better, that there's just some out there that I don't feel that convicted to go and change and do something about. I hope somebody does. I'm just not the person to go and do it. And then there's some that get me really, really excited. I'm like, dang it, we have got to go and change that. And think about the ones for you that are disproportionately and angry, or just think about the opportunities or lack thereof that just break your heart. The opportunities or lack thereof for you or for other people that just break your heart. I think all three of these are helpful in informing the question, ultimately, of what matters to you. And what I've learned to realize is that really perspective-changing moments can reveal what mattered most to us. So anytime we begin to see or perceive the world differently, right? Anytime we start to see the world differently, it can show us what matters most. So one of those moments I had while I was in Kenya, and it was with Helen. So this is her. She took my sweatshirt, my hat. She wore my backpack all week. She was awesome. And so every single day she would go through and try to get my camera, try to get my phone, try to get everything she could out of my bag. And it was great. And one day, she came across some of my crackers that were in there. And so she asked if she could have some, or she would call them biscuits. So that's what she called my crackers. And I heard that a million times. And so she asked if she could have some of those. And we were in the midst of 50 kids. And we're not supposed to give out food while we're there because it can just send a lot of mixed messages and all this stuff. So of course, I did it in the moment. But as soon as we were far enough away from the other kids, I, of course, gave her the biscuits. And so we were sitting over there, and I gave her some. I was like, hey, just don't tell anyone else that you got them from me. She's like, okay, I won't. And so the next day she comes back with 5 friends. And she's like, hey, can we have some biscuits? And so I gave her, the package. I was like, okay, fine, y'all can each have one, but don't tell anyone else. And once I did that, like the other friends kind of like ran off, and she held out her hand and she goes, "This is for you." And I was like, "What is it?" She's like, "It's for you." And she opens her hand and she puts about 50 Kenyan shillings in my hand. And that's about the equivalent of 50 cents. And just for a moment, I looked at it in my hand, and it occurred to me, I had the thought, I don't know how long it took, it was probably pretty quick, but I had the thought that was potentially everything that Helen had. That was potentially all that Helen had to her name. We walked with her every single day from the church back to where we were staying at a university, and she stopped along the way at this kind of mud hut door with about 10 inlets inside, and one of those was her home. And I thought that could potentially be everything that she had, and I gave it back to her. I was like, "No, that's okay." And she's like, "No, keep it." And I pulled some quarters out. I was like, "No, I already have some. It's okay. Like, you really should keep it." And she ended up keeping it. And that was one of those moments that I was like, dang. I was like, as I'm getting older and I'm becoming an adult post-college and I'm managing my own money and finances, like, I want to live in a way to where I can give to both people and organizations that are helping people like Helen who just have different opportunities and circumstances than I do. That was a perspective-changing moment where I saw the world slightly differently, and it revealed to me what really matters the most. I think another moment for me, or kind of period, would be when I first placed my faith in Christ. It was around the end of middle school. And up to that point, the way I viewed people was really like what I could get out of them. It was what I could get from them. Who could give me influence, popularity, the most friends, right? Who could help me in basketball and school, those kinds of things. And along the way through middle school, I was just mean. Like, I was not a good guy. And when I came to that realization at the end of kind of 8th grade going into high school, one, I began to see people as what I could do for them rather than what I could get from them. But then I had to go back and I had to apologize and I had to ask for forgiveness from a lot of people that I had made mad and been mean to and just caused a lot of like emotional and relational issues with throughout middle school. And that was one of those kind of perspective-changing moments that revealed to me what mattered most. I don't know if you can resonate with either of those. Maybe these are some life events that can help kind of find the perspective-changing moments for you. Maybe it's a marriage in your family. You had a divorce and someone gets remarried. There's a divorce. Maybe you've lost a loved one. Maybe there was sickness or just the unexpected. Anytime you have a conversation, you're like, I just had no idea that is what you were going through. I had no idea that is what was going on in your life. All of those can inform what matters to us. At the end of the day, guys, perspective is powerful. Perspective is powerful. And so that's why I'm spending time unpacking this together, because I believe that our perspective on life can inform a lot of our decisions and ultimately the way that we love and the way that we serve people. What's cool, though, is I believe that, but also 2,000 years ago, Paul, who wrote a lot of letters to the New Testament, said something very, very similarly. And then a guy today, in the last 30 years, who's one of the most known business, leadership, personal growth writers, has wrote the exact same thing. And so I think it's really cool to see all of these in alignment. But I do want to look at what Paul wrote in a letter to the Colossians. I just want to give you guys some context real quick so you can kind of see, hey, this isn't just like some random thing in the Bible. This was like really happening, really going on. So what's happening in Colossians, the letter of Colossians is a letter to a church that Paul didn't start. A friend of his named Epaphras started this church, and Paul's actually in jail when he writes this letter. And Epaphras comes to him and gives him this update about what's going on in this city, Colossae, and this is what he says. This is Epaphras' update to Paul. He says, hey, church is growing, people are faithful, there's lots of cultural pressures, we don't really know what to do, and we just know that Jesus offers a different way to live, but we don't really know how to do it. Like, this is all new to us, we don't know what's going on. So Epaphras tells Paul this. He's sitting in a very small jail cell, and in that, he writes his response, which is what we now have today, is the letter of Colossians. So in the first couple of chapters, he's thanking God and he's praying. He's like, I'm so thankful for these people, all those kinds of things. And then he gets to chapter 3. And chapter 3 is one of the most practical chapters, in my opinion, in the entire New Testament in terms of just how to live a better life. Like how to live life in a way that will give you great, healthy relationships, good relationships with God, all those kinds of things. But he starts all this practical advice with perspective. And I want to look at what he says at the beginning of Colossians 3. This is what he says. Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. And I first thought about that. I was like, if I was Paul and I was trying to give like practical advice, I would go to like a checklist. I would go to like, here's the 10 things to do, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, like go in this order. I probably wouldn't go to like a long-term perspective as the first thing I would say in giving practical advice on how to live your life. But as I thought about it more, I was like, this is actually so true. This is actually so true. Think about this. It's only when you know where the end is that you know what to do today. It's only when you know where the end is that you know what to do today. So think about it. It's only if you're practicing in basketball, but there's no goal, you don't really know what you should be doing today. If your goal is to win a state championship, then you know I've got to win this round, this round, this round. I got to win this game. I got to win the next game. I got to win this practice. So that means today I have to work really, really hard to go and win that once you know what the end is. If the end is for you, I want to graduate high school, right? Or I want to get into a certain college. And you got to back that up and say, I need this score and this score and this score. I need this grade in this class. So that means I have to get this grade on this quiz. So that means I have to study tonight, right? Because you have an end perspective in mind, you know what it is that you need to do today. And I think Paul is saying the same thing. He's saying, hey, when you think about the end goal and you think about the forever things, the heavenly things, the eternal things, well, that can inform what you do today and how you serve and love people and live out your life today. I said that there was a guy who wrote a really important business book. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. His name's Stephen Covey, and I think it's habit number 2 for him. He said this, habit number 2 for him was begin with the end in mind, which sounds surprisingly similar to me as to what Paul said. But he's saying, hey, when you know where you're going, it will inform what you do today. Or when we adopt an end in mind perspective, we discover what matters to us today, and more importantly, we discover what to do about it. We discover what to do about it. So with all of that, coming back to this question of what is for Austin, well, I said earlier that the heart behind it is that we want to be known for what we're for, rather than what we're against. We want to be known for what we're for, rather than what we're against. But more importantly than that, for Austin, for you guys, the next generation, is a platform. It's a voice. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to activate around those things that matter most to you, the things that break your heart, the things that you want to go and change in the world around you. For Austin is an umbrella that lets us do that and just channel all of that or focus all of our energy in a common direction. Rather than doing a little bit over here, hey, a little impact, little impact, little impact, we're able to take our energy collectively and focus it in a common direction. And when you focus on something, it doesn't just double or triple the potential that you have. It's infinitely more powerful. There's a book called Focus by Al Ries, and he says this about focus. Just think about this. You can apply this to any area of your life, but think about how powerful focus is. He says this, the sun produces 38,460 septillion watts of energy per second, but if you stand outside in it for an hour without sunscreen, you'll get a little burn or a little red, right? This is a massive amount of energy that we can't comprehend, right? But if we stand outside in it, you get a little red. Some of you get more red than others, right? But it's okay, I got a little bit of a burn, right? That's the extent of it because it's the epitome of unfocus. It's going in every direction we can possibly imagine. And then he says this, but all it takes is just a few small watts of energy in a focused laser beam to cut through a diamond, one of the hardest known minerals to man. He says just a couple watts of energy. If you put that in one direction, if you focus that, the potential is infinitely more. It's not double, it's not triple, it's not 10x. It is infinitely more powerful when you focus. And so with For Austin, we have the ability to focus together. And I would suggest that the focus of For Austin is love, that we want to love people. And when we focus that love, we can go in a whole lot of different applications, but we are going in one direction together. And really the potential is infinite. And really, the reason that we can do this, I think this is so significant. The underlying foundation of why we can go out and make a difference for Austin, serve anyone, is what it says in 1 John, right? It says, we love because he first loved us. We love because he first loved us. That means that we have the capacity to love because there is a God who loved us first. There's a God who looked at you and looked at me and said, we are broken, we are unworthy, we are not good enough to have a relationship with him on our own, but he sent his son to die on the cross for you, for me, to bridge that gap so that we could have a relationship, so that we could experience his grace. And it's because of that, because of what he's done for us, that we can go out and we can love our city. I was trying to think of a way to kind of put this all together and to illustrate this for you guys. And so I want to come over here to the whiteboard and just kind of put this all together. I think one of the helpful ways to think about what For Austin is and what it has the potential to become next year, over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, is to think of For Austin more or less like the beginning, or to think of For Austin kind of like a seed, if you will, a seed that's been planted and has the potential to grow. I think that when it grows, what will grow out of For Austin at the end of the day is going to be love. But I think that what we have the potential for is for these roots to go in a lot of different directions, to meet a lot of different needs for a lot of different people in a lot of different places. I think that this might be, hey, we're going to go and we're going to take care of the homeless in our city. I think that this could be, hey, we're going to go and we're going to provide grief counseling to those in need. I think that this is going to be, we're just going to provide general counseling to those who need it. I think this is going to be, we're going to take care of the seniors in our area. I think this could be, we're going to build a building and we're going to go and create space and capacity for small groups to have places and conversations so that we can go and make a difference. And I think that there's all kinds of question marks about what we could go and what we could do and what we have the potential to do when we focus our energy together. But I think what's so exciting is that you guys are right here at chapter 1. I don't know how many chapters, I don't know how many pages are in the story, but I do know that when enough time has passed for us to look back on it, that you'll be able to say, I was a part of something significant by being a part of something bigger than myself, being for something greater than myself. And you'll have the opportunity to create layers and layers and layers of this foundation, to fill in the blanks, fill in the question marks with what it is that matters to you. And so tonight, I usually try to land on one thing that I want you to walk out with or to think about, but tonight I've got two of them. And the first thing that I would just ask, it would be like a request, that you would take the time today, tonight, wherever it is, that you would take the time to just dream about the impact that you can have. I'm a huge believer in just taking the time to imagine, just wonder, what is it? What could change? What is it that I'm disproportionately angry about the way that it is in our world? What is it that could change? And then secondly is I would want you to think about signing up for the next opportunity you have to be for Austin collectively. And that next opportunity for us collectively is together at My Life in January. My Life's coming up in January, registration's in a couple of weeks. And at My Life, we launched this last year, but you guys are gonna have fun and have an outing and all this kinds of stuff. It's our small group weekend retreat. But every single small group will be a part of serving our city in some way or another in a way that you guys get to decide on as a small group. We're not gonna tell you, hey, here's what you're doing. You guys decide on that and go and do that together. And in fact, in small group tonight, you guys are gonna have a chance to talk about some of those things. But I want to ask that you, hey, one, dream about the impact that you can have, and two, think about signing up for the next opportunity that we can be for Austin together. And that's at My Life. So I'd love to pray as we wrap up, and then we'll head to our small groups. Heavenly Father, God, we're so thankful that we have the ability and capacity and potential to love because you first loved us. God, thank you for coming after us when we're from far away from you, when we ran away from you. Thank you for loving us unconditionally, loving us for who we are, not for what we've done. We're so thankful for you and for your Son. God, I just pray that you would open our eyes to what you're doing, to the possibilities, to the potential. We know that you have more in mind than we could possibly imagine. We just are thankful for the opportunity to be a part of that adventure and that journey, and we ask that you would continue to lead us. God, we trust you to do that, and it's in your Son's name that we pray. Amen.